church, and she had a heart attack on a lawn. He had leukemia, and we got her to the hospital. It was a Nazareth hospital, and we had to tell him, and that afternoon he died. So the two of them died together. They were married a long time. They were only young kids when they got married. Yeah. Time goes too fast. Time's going, it's just going too fast.
Did your dad play a role in the company?
Yeah, he came. My uncle, there was only the three of us. So it was my Uncle Frank, my grandfather, and they started in December, and I was in high school. I was a freshman in high school, and it was nearby. It was about a couple miles away, and I used to walk from after school in high school up to the business on 10th and Walnut and deliver all around Philadelphia. I used to walk all over because there was a lot of dealers up there. And so there was just that. And then when my my uncle died in '57, he was only 43, had a heart attack. He went through all the Europe campaign, the invasion of Anzio, and he got a Bronze Star for going behind enemy lines and repairing telephone wires or telegraph wires that were down. But the doctors think that he was so, I mean, you're always scared in war. Whether you're scared, you're basically scared. And they think that actually caused him to have the heart attack. You don't eat properly, and it's, you're in war. When it rains, it doesn't matter, you're still doing it. And they think he was only 43. I was out on a boat with him up the Delaware River, and he just had the heart attack, and there's nothing I could do. We were on an island. Couldn't even get any help right away. But he died almost instantly. A couple minutes he was dead. And then my grandfather, he died in '59. So there was just me left. So my father came in, and my sister came in. And in those days, we had the little place, but I used to leave her, my sister, to take care of the store, and I used to still make the deliveries. I'd lock her in, go out and make the deliveries, and come back and go over to the post office and mail everything. And then my father helped us out. He came.
What did he do in the interim? He had another job?
Well, he had a job. He worked for, he was in the alcohol part, but it's Publica Industries. They made Old Hickory whiskey. But he wasn't involved with he was involved like the alcohol that Listerine uses. They used to supply Listerine. And they would make this like 180 proof alcohol they had to cut, and all. But that's where he worked. And he quit that, and he came to, to help us out. So it was just the three of us all that time. I mean, it was really something, like locking my sister in to make the deliveries, because you couldn't let anybody else know you had problems, or else they'd go someplace else. But you used to do everything. I did the ordering. I was 24 years old when it was thrown on me. Wow. 24, and it was just the two of us basically, and then my father came in. But I used to do the ordering, the charging, the wrapping, the delivery, anything you can think of, And if you want to learn a business, that's the way to learn a business. I took care of all the salesmen. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. I used to love to go to work. Love to go to work.
Can you describe for us, you said that when you were a young kid, you would go and make these deliveries to all these retailers all over the place. Tell us a little bit about what that was like. What were the stores like back then?
Well, Presser was still in, Theodore Presser was still in Philadelphia. They were at 1712 Chestnut. And they backed up to an alley, I forget the name of it, and used to go in the back way. And before the store opened, I'd go in there, take their order, and then take it back, fill it, and deliver it in the afternoon. And then there was other ones. There's like Crown and Burke Music on Broad Street, and Wyman Company on Chestnut Street. Elkin and Vogel was there, right next to Presser. Wow. And there was quite a few, and that Greens 5 and 10, May Morgan, I used to deliver to her, and Kresge's. So it took me the whole afternoon. I used to get in, I guess, about 2:30 after school, and I wasn't done until it was time to go home around 5:30. And then we lived at Front and South, which is Society Hill now in Philadelphia. The building's all torn down. But I used to walk home again, deliver to a dealer that was on 8th Street, 8th and South, Di Stefano. And they had his cousin, Dick Cavelli, used to do the order, and I used to deliver. He'd come in, give me an order in the morning, I delivered on my way home at night. And everything was walking. I mean, the trolley cars were a pain in the neck, to take, it's crowded, but I walked every place. I knew Philadelphia like the back of my hand, Center City, Philadelphia. But like I said, I'd give anything if I could go back to those days, really. They were really fun days to be in business. Nothing was rushed. Like we go to a place like at the Cornerette, it was called, at 9th and Walnut. We'd have breakfast with all the friends that would gather there. I said, what do you say we open up? And we'd walk up the street, open up the place, and it was nice. And in those days, jet planes were unusual. And you'd be working and you'd hear a jet coming over Philadelphia. You'd go outside and see if you could see it. And they still had those, I guess Trans World used to have the big three-tailed ones, the Constellation. They weren't jets, but you see one of them fly over Philadelphia. It was really exciting. They were nice days.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, really fun days.
Could you describe your uncle for me?
Well, my uncle was he was a shy person. He wasn't married. He went all through the war. He was drafted in '42, and he didn't get out until the war was over. So he went all the way up through, he was in Africa, the African campaign, and it was Anzio Beach or something. I think Anzio, what they did is the Allies bypassed the Germans. They were like in Rome, and they went up above them to cut them off in Anzio. He went through that, and he went all through up Germany until he finally wound up in Berlin at the end of the war.
Wow.
Got the Bronze Star. He was a sergeant. They tried to make him an officer, but he was really mild-mannered, and he couldn't boss anybody around. A sergeant does, I know, but he couldn't tell anybody else. Like in those days, we'll say, go ahead out on this mission. I know you're going to get killed. He couldn't do that. So he dropped out of officer training school and he wound up being a staff sergeant. And used to drive trucks. Anything that would get it done. He was in like repairs, communications, and stuff like that. But that took its toll on him. I'm sure that's why he died so young. He didn't have a chance. When he had the heart attack, he was gone.
What was his forte in the company? What sort of stuff did he do?
Well, it was only like I said, my grandfather and Frank at the time, and he did everything too. My grandfather did the ordering because he knew all the stuff. Frank did everything else: the charging, the wrapping, delivery. If I wasn't there, before I came, I was only a young kid, 13, and take it over to the post office and stuff like that. When we were on Walnut Street, and this is odd. The post office still had horse and wagons. Now this is after the war. This was like, we started in December '45, but they had these olive green wagons and horses. They had a driver and they had a mailman.
No kidding.
And it's odd. And Curtis Publishing was a big thing on 6th and Walnut. They had these electric trucks with hard rubber tires. The guy used to sit maybe 2 stories up with a straight steering wheel. I mean, it seems odd, but like you say horse and wagon, well, that was like in the 20s. It wasn't. That was in the 40s. And they used to take their horses back to the stables at night, and I used to stand and watch. They'd take a couple teams of horses down 10th Street to the stables. Every once in a while, they'd break away to be up on the sidewalk. People would be scattering all over the place. But it seems like it wasn't like, you don't have horse and wagons then, but they did. The post office still had horse and wagon. They would back the wagons up to the docks at night and take the horses back to the stable at night.
That's incredible.
Yes, it really is. Yeah. But my uncle, getting back to him, he was mild-mannered, and he was such a nice guy. He wasn't just my uncle. He was a good friend too. You know, I mean, he would do anything. And he was so, like, I had my first son at the time, and he took him out on a wagon, and Charlie wanted to, he's my son Charlie, he wanted to walk. So he let him out, and he tripped, and there was a bottled glass, and he cut his knee open. The worst one, the kid was crying and bleeding. It took us all to calm Frank down because he was so upset that he was watching Charlie and he let him get hurt. He was the toughest one to calm down.
What a sweetheart.
But he was a good guy. He was a good guy. Which they were still around.
So that must have been real tough when they both passed away.
Yeah, my grandmother and grandfather on the same day. It was Easter Sunday. I don't know the exact date, but it was Easter Sunday, I know that, of 59.
Wow.
It was March something, like the late March of 59.
Now you were already involved with the company because...
Oh yeah, I was out of school at that time.
Yeah.
See, I was going to go on to college. I started the first year at Villanova, but I loved the music business. What my grandfather taught me, and I knew that's what I wanted to, so I dropped out. I guess I graduated when I was 17, so we'll say 18. That's when I started working full-time, when I was 18.
Wow.
And good thing I did, because when I was 24, everybody was dead. I was the only one left. And it was me and like I said, me and my sister ran the thing.
Wow.
And then my father after that.
What was that like right after taking over? Was that a hard transition for you?
You know, it's funny. No, I can't say that it was, because I was used to doing it all. And I was around my grandfather all the time. And I knew everything that he knew. I picked everything up. So no, it was just almost as if I had always done it. I never had a problem with that for some reason. I never did. But, I was only 24, and you're a lot more flexible when you're 24 than when you're 74,
And the industry was changing quite a bit in the early 60s.
Yes, it was. There was a lot of different publishers. They were all moving out of New York. I mean, at the time, if you sent a card to a publisher and just said New York, they'd find them. The Brill Building, 1619 Broadway. They had all kinds of small publishers in it. And Kane, the jobber, was there. MDS was there. MDS finally moved over to New Jersey. I forget the town, over in North Jersey. And Walter Kane, his father started. Walter Sr. died. Walter Kane then died, and then Danny Kane came along, and business started to go downhill. But New York was the center of everything. If you want to find a publisher, you looked in the New York phone directory. Then they started moving, like Hanson was in New York, he moved down to Florida. And all the other, over to New Jersey, Warner Brothers moved, it was still called MPH. And Music Dealer Service was Ashley, Al Ashley. How could I forget Al Ashley? Talk about a character and nice guy at the same time. He was funny as anything too. I mean, he would just talk to you and he'd make you laugh. Again, competition, but a friend. Yeah, Al Ashley. He was up in North Jersey too. And there was some competition in Chicago. Carl Fisher was in business. Carl Fisher had a jobbing in New York, but they also had Carl Fisher in Chicago, and I'm almost sure they had it out in California one time, which they closed, but the Fisher in Chicago was a big jobber. It didn't affect us that much because we were just local. And everybody started spreading out. And it started as, instead of publishing your own songs, you would get a selling agent, and they would do it for you. But it started to change, I guess. I guess it was the 60s it started, because they started spreading out. California had like 3 jobbers out there, and I don't think they have any out there now. There was much more competition. I don't know. I don't know how many just pure jobbers there are now, but they're not like they used to be. Used to be maybe 15, 20 of them.
Wow.
No.
Well, and I mean, there's still a need for the jobbers. So what happened?
Well,
Distributors.
Well, you know,
doing that, or
it's funny with the publishers. I don't know whether the publishers, like Hanson, for instance, and a lot of the other ones, they take the jobber as their competitor. And we couldn't ever convince that we are not your competitor. We're just an extension of your sales force. But they wouldn't buy that. I mean, they thought, in other words, it used to become the jobber was your competitor, wherever they were, became the publisher is now your competitor. And they have an unfair competition with that because they can give you bigger discounts. A jobber will say, just for round figures, let's say a jobber buys it at 55. He has to sell it at 40%. Well, if that particular dealer goes directly to the publisher, some of them give 55. Like they'll require a jobber to have do so much business per year. But a retailer can do $100 a year and they still sell them. Now why? So then, in other words, the publishers became our biggest competition. Really did. And their